The March 16th meeting of the Planning Board to order. My name is John Weiss, to my left.
George Morris.
Jim Robinson.
Pete Pecos.
Elizabeth Mitchell.
John O'Connell. Thank you.
Martha Taylor.
And Martha Taylor is our town planner. I forget, do we take the minutes one at a time?
Usually, yeah.
I think so. So we have 6 sets of minutes that have been sent out for our review, and we'll start with the December 16th, which was the Borrego hearing and other issues. Any comments on this or any questions on those meeting minutes?
Well, I agree with your comment. The one that ran through that December meeting, I thought was very well done.
Yeah, I thought it was just terrific.
Record of-
It's a great record, and it helps us, especially since we haven't heard the Borrego issue in over 3 months. Especially since we haven't had them before us in over
Oh,
3
yeah.
months, so you kind of forget. So, is that the only, any other comments, or?
No, I can add the same comment that Martha did a wonderful job with these minutes. It was very impressive.
Okay, yeah, I
Let's
agree.
start.
Very good.
I agree. So, can I have a motion of acceptance, please?
Move to accept the minutes of December 16 as prepared.
May I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, January 3rd, 2016. Any comments on those minutes?
January 6th.
January 6th,
Yep.
No comment.
no comment?
No
Have a motion?
Move to accept the minutes of January 6 as prepared.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
January 20th, 2016. Any comments on those at all?
The only question I had, Martha, on A, about 3 lines from the bottom, it said that the selectmen either assign its right of first refusal.
Oh, right.
I think it either be Board of Selectmen or Board of
Yes.
Selectmen assigns the town's right of first refusal. And that happens in 2 places.
Okay, thank you.
And then on February 3rd, 2016,
No, no, we have to-
oh, excuse me,
It's okay.
vote,
Move to accept
move the accept
minutes of January 20 as prepared.
As amended.
as amended.
Right.
And a second?
Second.
Second.
Any comment on them further? All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
And then on February 3rd, 2016, any comments at all?
No comment?
Can I just raise, I was not here for that, and I just wanted to ask a question. It was about the Sled Road site visit to be scheduled. Has that been scheduled? Did it occur or not?
It has not occurred. I did talk to Bill about it, and that's one thing I wanted to talk about
Okay,
tonight. He said
okay.
anytime, so
Okay,
try to get some.
then, can I have a motion on accepting those minutes, please?
I move to accept the minutes of, which one is it?
February 3rd, February
February
3rd.
3 as read.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
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 We had to modify the vote on the 20th. I was not here, the 16th.
That,
Oh, the 16th, oh, okay. Where is it? He was absent,
right, that's right. So I think we'll have to have a different motion since.
Well,
since
I
you
can't
because you can't make the motion.
You made the motion.
All right, we'll go back to December 16th, and I need a new motion to,
Draw that vote.
do we need to withdraw the vote officially?
Yeah,
All
whatever.
right.
Withdraw.
Well,
I
I'm not
move
sh-
to withdraw the vote regarding acceptance of the minutes of Wednesday, December 16th, 2015.
I have a second other than George.
Second.
I guess.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Now may I have,
I move to accept the minutes of Wednesday, December 16th, 2015, as written.
and a second, please?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, George,
Nobody
for
ever said
pointing
this
that
wasn't
out.
entertaining.
No, much better than TV.
So did we accept February 3rd? Sorry.
We did February
Okay.
3rd, we're up to March 2nd. And March 2nd was the first one of this month. Any comments on any on this?
No comments?
Elizabeth, you're not there,
Right.
so-
No comments? May I have a motion on the March 2nd
I
meeting?
move to accept the minutes of March 16th as
March-
prepared.
March 2nd?
2016.
I did the same.
Yeah, I know you
May I have a second on that, please?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, then the March 8th, which was the dual joint meeting between the Board of Selectmen and the Planning Board regarding 11 Central Street. Any questions on that at all? I did have need a clarification, and I wanted to make sure I had this right, Martha. On the first full paragraph on the second page, and it says, except for a 13 by 30, two-story addition on the south side of the building to replace an existing small one-story addition. I thought it was added on to.
No, there's a little bump out now.
And
so
they're
he's
tearing
gonna
that down?
demolish that and-
Oh, okay.
and-
Because the plan doesn't, the plan says expand. If you, you know what I mean? But they're, are the representatives here from?
One of them, yes, the landscaping part of it, but.
You wouldn't know anything about that? Anyway, it's a minor, but I was just curious, because what I understood was that they were gonna keep that middle part, and then it's, because on the plan it says we're gonna expand it.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't think they physically could with what they're planning on doing. but-
Okay, all right, so, that's fine then.
But it was a net.
And that,
It was a 200.
that's right, okay. So with that, that's the only question I had, and, yeah. So, any further questions on this, on the the March 8th? No? May I have a motion, please?
I move to accept the minutes of March 8th meeting as prepared.
Second.
Any further comment? All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you all for your forbearance in watching us go through that rather tedious process. We have Mr. Osgood from TTI regarding the yield plan for the 105 High Road. Oh, Ben's not here, so Arthur, you'll do it?
May I?
Sure. That's good, so that what you want to do is make sure that the audience can see it and the TV picks it up. So actually, that's not a bad location. Good evening. Good evening.
Microphone, please.
Right. So if I remember, we also requested to delay our deliberations on this because we wanted to get information from both the fire department and from the Conservation Commission. That's my understanding. We have information from both?
Yes, as far as fire is concerned, Mr. Costonis did go and speak with the deputy fire chief on Monday morning, I believe it was. And I both spoke with the deputy chief this afternoon and got an email from him. And he said that he sees no immediate issues with the yield plan as presented. He just said the fire engineers would like to reserve the possibility of adding a fire hydrant. And also, they will require that the driveways be built so that the fire apparatus will be able to access the houses and support the weight of the fire apparatus. So, if this were to go ahead, that would be their
Right.
criteria.
We assume it will not be going ahead.
Right, and he understood.
Yeah, everybody understands that. And what about Doug?
And I spoke with Doug, the wetlands have no impact on the yield plan, it's all excess land. So, a little bit of the buffer zone
Why
comes
is-
into that back lot.
So in fact, how was the yield, how was the acreage determined? You take the wetlands out, right?
Yeah, I mean, basically, the yield was determined based on that sort of front,
The front part?
the front part.
Okay. Because
And-
most of the rear part is wetlands, am I right? Most,
Yes.
okay.
Wetlands,
Simple answer, yes.
Okay,
yeah, wetlands and floodplain.
okay.
And then Mr. Costonis did also have a separate discussion with Doug about the possibility of building a house back in that area.
I'd heard
And I
that,
think
right.
clarified what the issues might be to do that.
Okay, all right. So do you need to add anything further? That's what we had to do, and so we've satisfied the things that we asked ourselves. Have you had any further information that you want to bring forward at this time?
Not with regard to this matter,
Okay,
Board.
all right.
This was just, again, a step in the
somebody precede this recent conversation? I haven't heard, as usual, a damn word.
I'm
I
sorry.
don't know what you said, I don't know what you said.
I'm sorry,
And I'm a
John.
voting member here, so if you, could you speak up a little bit and John,
Absolutely.
I'd
Get-
appreciate it if you
get
didn't
close-
hold your
get-
meeting in secret.
Absolutely.
Get closer to it.
I don't have a lot to add to the yield plan.
Yeah.
I'd just like to say it's just a step towards a process of perhaps pursuing the special
Right.
permit OSRD.
John, my question was, does he have anything to add
Okay.
aside from the fact that
I guess
we,
the answer is no.
the answer is no.
basically.
Simply put, yes, no.
right,
Thank you.
okay. So, then we're just going to accept the yield plan, and then what is your next step on this?
Well, the next step is really back with the engineer and with
Right.
his Custonis to develop a concept plan for the OSRD.
Okay,
And what we discussed last time was that they would have one or more informal meetings with Doug, Sam, a couple of members of the planning board potentially, and me to sort of look at what might be the best configuration. So tonight's task really in accepting the yield plan is to say, yes, that's acceptable. The 8 units would be the starting point for an OSRD, and then it would move forward from there.
okay. So, we need a motion to accept this,
I would say.
yes. So, could I have a motion to accept the yield plan as presented and reviewed?
So moved.
So,
Second.
a second. Any further discussions about that? All those in favor? Done.
Thank you. Thank you, Board.
So when, just a further, to your need to meet with town officials, have you had any discussions with your neighbors?
Yes,
Okay,
I have.
just to encourage you to do that, that's all, okay.
I think this starts the possibility of a development project.
Right,
now.
and a lot of this can be premature when you're just trying to figure out this stuff, but I think as you really think that you're gonna move forward, I think it makes sense to have a little discussion.
Absolutely. As Martha said, we were gonna have informal or, at least offer informal meetings and just get
Good.
input at this point, just to see what might fit and
Good.
what might not fit. And
It's not an easy site.
it's not an easy site. It's not an easy site.
Good luck.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you, Board.
Chrissy, where's Chrissy? Oh, she is here.
Chrissy, the same question, I'd like to know what you're saying.
I'll speak up.
For the audience, I've got to recuse myself.
You don't need to do it yet, John. You don't need to do it yet.
Well, the architect is a client of mine.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Oh, so you're recusing yourself on both, on this and 111?
Sorry, I can't hear what you're saying, John.
You're recusing yourself on this and and on 11 Central?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Both, in both cases, one, the developer is a client, in this case, the architect is.
Fine.
Okay, on the mic, I was just gonna give it to him. Sorry, I didn't want to confuse you.
Proceed.
So, my name is Chrissy Rupp. I'm here in regards to the property at 67 to 69 Newburyport Turnpike. Rachel Harris is our architect. We were here about 2.5 years ago to go through a full site plan review. And as part of that site plan review, our phase 1 of the project was to remodel and put a large addition on a commercial building on the property. And as part of the approval, we had a proposed addition on the house. You'll see it says around 360 square feet. We're here tonight for determination. We need to adjust our plan a little bit to go to Plan B. As we were doing the excavating for the building and the replacing of the septic tank, we had to excavate around the house, and once we did that, we just found that the foundation of the house is in terrible shape, and the construction there's like raw
I
studs
agree with you.
going down into the dirt, it's
It-
rotted
it
all the
is.
way up. It's not really safe for the house to be standing right now, let alone put an addition on it, so, we're here to just try to modify that plan a little bit. The first phase of this for us with the site plan review, and I think the property triggered every special permit that could have possibly happened, was extremely financially exhausting for us, so, finding out that we needed to shift gears a little bit, we started meeting with the town right away to figure out how can we change course on this, but not trigger a whole set of new approvals that we need to go through. So I'm gonna go through our adjusted plans, but we have been meeting with Martha and the building inspector, conservation, and board of health all along as we redesign our building, to try to make sure that we don't overstep any limitations that would trigger additional approvals. So, okay, so this is the original. Our new plan doesn't affect the site plan at all. All we're doing is shifting the placement of the house, the footprint of the house, back a little bit. So, let's see, on page 3 of your packet,
I need to
I think.
acknowledge the public hearing. Chrissy, could I interrupt you for a
Yes,
second?
please.
Sorry. We have a public hearing scheduled for 7:15.
Okay.
I'm going to acknowledge that it's 7:15, but we're going to continue on your project until we can get around to the 11 Central Street, okay? Thank you.
On page 3, you'll see some tables I'll walk you through. Now, knowing that we needed to take the building down, we really took a step back and tried to look at the composition of the property differently, knowing that between the mix of commercial and residential. Currently, the property is, the commercial space is our own business, Harmony Natural Learning Center, which is like a preschool and parent education center. There's a single, one-bedroom apartment on the top of that. So we have the one-bedroom residential apartment, we have the commercial Harmony space, and then we have our house, which is a two-bedroom, single-family house. So we are going to leave the Harmony commercial space alone, keep the house as a two-bedroom, but we're gonna take the residential apartment off of the radar and just use that as overflow office space for the business. And we took that one-bedroom septic allowance and added some commercial space on the lower floor of the house. Did you follow that?
I did.
Okay.
You're talking about, that's what you're proposing to
That's
do
what I'm
in order so
proposing
that you
to do.
don't trip too many new requirements. Okay.
We're limited by the septic capacity on the property, so by getting rid of the residential apartment, it gave us the allowance to be able to add some commercial space
In the rear.
in the rear. So it's just a single room preschool space, which allows us to really almost double the capacity of our business. So that's
Okay.
gonna be exciting. That, the business location has been awesome for us. So we were at capacity within 6 months, and we have a long waiting list, so we're ready to expand, which is really exciting. Okay, so on page 3, there's a couple of tables that'll be important. One of the biggest considerations was the impervious surface and stormwater calculations. So on the original site plan, we had the existing house plus the 360-foot addition that allowed us 1,614 square feet of a footprint. So we wanted to stay within that limitation for the new building. So the new building, the impervious surface calculation is in the little box there. The new building is a total of 1,608 square feet, so that we didn't fuss with our impervious surface at all. The parking, there's a little table at the top that has the parking requirements for us in terms of state licensure. Because of the nature of our business, we're able to control the drop-off and pickup times and all the traffic flow, so we actually can double the business without impacting our parking requirements at all. There's no change to the parking. And Doug's concern in terms of conservation was just that this building needs to be out of the 50-foot buffer zone from the wetlands. So the closest corner of the house is at 50 foot 7 inches. Okay. We're pushing, the whole house is gonna come back about 15 feet. Yeah. So we'll be able to add some additional grass and some landscaping in the front, which will be great. And I think overall, in terms of the planning board, there's a picture, there's some images on the second page of your packet of the existing house. If you drive by my house right now, you might think to yourself that it's kind of charming. But if you drive up and look at it, it's not charming. In the back of it, I think there was about 17 additions that they did along the years, so, it's in bad disrepair. Every time the wind blows, the siding is blowing off, there's chunks of the house falling apart. In terms of our own needs for the business, our safety of our family, we're really excited that, you know, the house needs to go. So hopefully it's an improvement that the town is also excited.
So how do you do this while you're, still need a place to live? Where do you live?
So
What's your
our-
relocation plan?
Our plan is actually to move the residential tenant that we have in the apartment out, which, hallelujah, will be a great, you know, we've had our hands stretched really thin in
Mhm.
terms of being landlords and stuff, so we're gonna move her out. Our family's gonna move up to that teeny little apartment.
Gotcha.
We wanna stay on the property, I like to be, you know, there when the construction's happening, so,
Good.
and then once the house is done, we'll move down and convert that to office space.
Sounds good.
Great.
So what is I think the question before the board is this a minor or a major change?
Yes.
So what is the existing square, you may have said this, but I missed it. What is the existing square footage of the building you're in now?
Talk you through this a little addendum that
So,
she
yes,
has.
I added a little extra 8.5 by 11 sheet. So the existing house, if you
I'm sorry.
include
Oh, here we go, okay.
the sheet.
Yep.
The existing house, total square footage, and I'm including the basement because it's a walkout basement, is 2,232 square feet. The interesting thing is when Chrissy went through the other application process, they talked about the footprint size of the new addition, but never discussed the square footage or how many stories that space would be. So that's sort of an open question, like perhaps it would probably have just been another 360 square feet on top of that total of 232 square feet in the original. And then the proposed will be 4,083 square feet.
So help me out here.
Having missed almost all of that.
Yes.
Is the net footprint down or up?
The net footprint is down.
Is down, that's all I want to know.
But the square footage, the
Yeah,
total square
that's-
footage of the building is
Yeah.
significantly
Square
up.
foot, the square foot has got nothing to do with stormwater, that's my
Exactly,
concern.
it doesn't, and,
The footprint is what I want.
yeah, but the footprint is under what was.
And you're not changing the circulation, right?
You mean the driving?
As far as driving
No,
goes.
no, there's no change.
I know
to the
there's walkway
circulation.
changes, but
Even
cars
the
go in,
walkway
cars
changes
go
are
out.
extremely minor. I think
Okay.
it's like 30 square feet of changes to the walkway.
When you look at the building, we have the septic tank is under the driveway here. The building here is about 5 feet off. The septic leach field is 5 feet here, and then you're up against the driveway. So we're totally landlocked in terms of being able to make too many adjustments to anything.
So is it, Rachel, is that?
Yes.
So on your calculations for the existing house with the approved addition, am I right to add the basement area to the first floor and then I get a total of 2952? Is that correct?
If you add, I'm sorry, can you repeat that?
Well, I'm looking at the middle column
Yes.
and I've got the basement area is 1372.
Mhm.
The first floor is 1580.
Yes.
So I want to do is, I want to
Yes,
add
so if
that.
you add those two, yes.
So what you have approved to build is nearly 3,000 square feet,
Yes.
not the 2232 that you pointed out.
The 2232 is just the.
Just the existing.
Just the.
So the differential is roughly about 1,000 square feet.
Yes.
So, okay, got it. Thank you very much. Board members, any comments or questions of Chrissy or the architect?
No.
It looks like an improvement to the whole situation,
It is.
significant improvement.
My only concern would be the family in the little apartment during construction. Construction always takes twice as long.
So a lot of people in a little space, but.
Do you have any thoughts, questions?
No, I think it looks great.
So is the board comfortable with making a determination that this is a minor adjustment because it's the
Yes.
same use?
Yes.
Sure.
Thank you
Okay.
so much.
So I think we need to vote on that.
Yes, I think there, and then I'll record that with the, the decision with the clerk.
Okay.
And just to
do
let
we
you
want?
all,
Do we want to address the vote? Set it up.
The vote ought to be to
It's a-
approve the request. Let's go back to what's on the agenda here. Approve the request for approval of, why don't we just read that, George? Right? Right?
actually, I would like to make one suggestion. Have you filed the RDA with the Conservation Commission yet?
I filed it early this week and we're scheduled to present to them on the third Tuesday of April.
Okay, all right. So I don't know if the board would want to make approval contingent on the Conservation Commission approval or just
I don't, everything I've heard, the Conservation Commission, John, Conservation Commission does not have major issues with this.
There wouldn't be any issues there.
No, I don't.
Okay, just wanted to bring that up.
Actually, I think they're probably still working on we got, did you get a certificate of compliance from us?
I never finished the project
That's
with
my-
Doug.
that's my question.
Because I knew we were gonna go back.
So
to
you
phase
should
two.
be working on the original order of
We are,
conditions?
yeah.
Okay, I would suggest that you get a certificate of compliance somewhere along the line, because,
So at the end of phase two, when we're done with the house, then we'll finish out the whole
Yeah,
thing with
okay.
him. Yeah,
Quick question?
yes.
The 50-foot, is that to the foundation or is that to the porch?
It is to the foundation, but I did check that the Conservation Commission goes to.
Allows you to
Allows you to
extend?
go to the foundation because it's above the first dwelling level.
Okay.
The Conservation Commission won't be concerned.
I think it would be cool, just because there was activity there, drop by and speak to Doug. I feel virtually certain he's gonna say, go in peace.
I just met with him on Monday, so.
You did, okay, so
yeah.
you're cool.
We had to file a determination with them, and I have to go back
I'm
and.
sorry?
I had to file a determination,
Oh,
just
request
like this.
determination of applicability, yeah.
Yeah, he felt like it
He's
would
just
probably
covering you,
be
yeah,
a
not gonna
negative,
make
but-
you go through a hearing.
Yeah.
All right. So the answer is, I don't think we need to do
Okay.
that. So we need
I'm
to
ready.
condition it.
Okay, I move to approve, the board approve the request for approval of modification to site plan review approval for 67 to 69 Newburyport Turnpike to raise and rebuild existing house.
Can I have a second?
Second.
Any further discussion on this issue? All those in favor?
Aye.
What do they vote on? No, seriously, I don't know what, do they vote to not
Yes,
make
it's
it?
minor.
Yeah.
Thank you guys so much.
Good luck, Chrissy.
Might be, since Attorney Arsenal is here, it might be good to do that.
Oh, Plum Island. You're the only one from 11?
Correct.
Fine. We're going to do another item first. Thank you very much. What happened to the agenda?
Here, you don't mind?
Oh,
Here.
no, I gave it to George. He stole it from me. Okay, Mr. Arsenault, this is a informal discussion regarding the proposed lot line adjustments at McLeod Avenue on Plum Island.
It is.
Thank you.
This is a supplemental memo that I wrote to supplement
Thank
what
you.
the
Oh, yeah.
town council
Oh, this is
already
what we had
provided
got in our
to you,
package.
and there are reduced copies of the complete plans attached to the memo, so you can refer to those if you need to.
A lot of work for a land switch.
Yeah,
It
this is.
certainly is, yes. It's a very interesting case. As I said,
Jeez.
So, but it
can I
would,
identify myself?
and you need to identify yourself, your address, and who you're representing, and then do as a nice and succinct summary of the issue as you can.
I will try. My name is Attorney Martin Arsenal. My business address is 939 Salem Street, Groveland, Massachusetts, and I represent the Macheros family, who are the owners of several parcels of land along McLeod Avenue on Plum Island. It's come to light that the improvements, both by the town along McLeod Avenue, as well as some of the structures that were put up by my client or their predecessors in title, encroach on each other. And that's created a cloud on their title, obviously. we had discussions, cooperative discussions with town council about how to resolve this issue. The first proposal was some sort of civil action to try and get a court determination of that. But as we looked at it further, we determined that it might be possible because the town continues to own McLeod Avenue. It's not a public way, it's a right-of-way, as you're probably aware. The town owns the fee interest in that way. It might be possible for my clients and the town to agree to a land swap in order to make the reality of ownership fit what's on the ground. So we went to our engineer, Camet Engineering, and had them draw up these plans that call for the transfer of 435 square feet from the town to my clients to correct some encroachments of buildings into McLeod Avenue. And then likewise, there'll be a transfer by my client of an equal amount of property back to the town, 435 square feet, to fix some of the encroachments that the town has made onto their property when McLeod Avenue is paved. There's one additional issue here, which is if you look at this area that's labeled pavement
Yeah.
bituminous pavement,
Yeah.
that pavement was put in by the town, and the water and sewer was put underneath that roadway.
On your client's property.
On my client's property. So one additional concession that we offered to the town was to grant the town an easement over that area in case you needed to enter for maintenance of the water and sewer lines. I think really this is a practical solution. My client is in the enviable position that they control enough land here to be able to craft a solution like that. This probably would not be available to most people on the island because they just don't own and control enough land to be able to do this. One potential problem that I've identified recently in talking to town council is an issue of the change in the frontage on the non-conforming lots, which I'm sure is a concern of this board as well. I took a look at your bylaw today, and Plum Island, as you know, is part of the overlay district. Your bylaw calls out chapter 48, section 6 in the zoning enabling act, which is really a special permit or finding portion of the zoning bylaw, to allow the zoning board of appeals to grant a finding that it's not more detrimental to the neighborhood. So certainly that would be a prerequisite to our coming back to you to ask you to endorse any plan. What we're seeking today is just to answer any questions you might have about this and to seek your support at the town meeting. Obviously, this is gonna have to go to town meeting, because we're asking the town to transfer property.
I do, looking at this plan here, which is is this the swap?
This is probably this first plan is the easiest one to see it on. I know I'm away from the cameras, but, you'll see there are several parcels. There's a parcel here,
And it's a strip.
These dark lines represent where McLeod Avenue appears on the Plum Island Beach Company plans.
Okay.
This lighter line represents where the road was actually laid out. Okay? So there's a parcel here, and these are all on the individual sheets. There's a parcel here that would be granted by lot 154 back to the town, right? There's a parcel here that would be granted by the town to my clients to fix this encroachment of this building into McLeod Avenue. And then if you travel down here,
Right.
and that if you look at the sheets, they do lay the individual parcels out on the following sheets. And then as you follow down here, there's a parcel here that the town would grant to my clients to fix this encroachment. And then there'd be a corresponding piece of property on the other side of the land from these two parcels, so that McLeod Avenue actually lies on town land.
Now, there's a little problem there, is there not?
in
You've got an
terms of-
existing building that encroaches on what will become.
No, this will become private.
Oh,
will
this
be-
becomes
right.
private.
This becomes
Oh, okay, so
private.
we're doing this with
Yeah.
the right of way,
So
Right.
okay.
this land would go from the town to my clients, and
Okay.
this corresponding land would go
And the
from my
right of way
clients.
goes up to there, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
Okay,
Correct.
so this is going to be town boundary.
Right.
What happens to this? What is that? And has
it-
that actually been built?
It's been built.
That's where the water and sewer was.
I
put in. That's
heard
where
that,
the
I
sewer
heard that.
easement would be granted.
We
But
would-
there's nothing here? There's no roadway here?
Oh, there's a road, there's no roadway there. Am I correct about that?
street.
It's a paper street all
It's
the
a
way
paper
through.
street,
It's a
all,
paper
street.
in other words, after this point here, all of this is paper street.
Correct.
And all you're doing here is rectifying the fact that right now, the building is on town property.
Correct.
What is a paper street? Something existing paper only? There's
Yes.
no,
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
it's the new one on me.
It's tough to drive on.
All of the ways on Plum Island
Paper
were
street.
laid out on a plan done by the Plum Island Beach Company in 1920, but were never accepted as public ways by the town. So the town, as you probably know, the history of the town eventually accepted a deed from the Plum Island Beach Company, so the town actually owns all of that land that the streets are on, which is an unusual set of circumstances, which was brought, but I think
Which-
it's sort of a creative solution to our title
Dirt.
problem.
It is.
we show where the road actually goes?
I think it goes, well, yeah, show me.
So it's this lighter line, so it actually goes to here and terminates.
Terminates right
Oh,
there.
okay.
Yeah,
And so the properties in question are here and here and here and here.
correct.
A lot simpler.
But the sewer is
The
actually
sewer
under
runs.
the road.
Correct.
Okay,
correct.
that's,
There's two manholes under the road, one in front of one house and one in front of the other.
So right here and here.
Okay.
And also this lot, these two lots are gonna be
Yes,
combined.
these
as-
two lots are going to be combined as part of this. This lot line will be eliminated.
But that's really not not our concern right now, am I right?
Not right now, but
No,
it will
when we
be
came
part
back
of the.
for endorsement of the plan. it will
And
be
then you
cer-
need to take this to town meeting,
Correct.
and, are you aiming for this session?
Yes, I am. I'm trying to work with Ginny on that.
Talk to
She-
Ginny on
she-
that?
She seems to think it's possible to do that, so.
Do we need to, do they need an endorsement from us or the selectmen in order, does that help, is that helpful or what?
That's what we're hoping for, that we'll have your support at town meeting. That's why we wanted to have this informal meeting with you and present the plans to you. Ginny's been working with Martha on this as well. It's still unclear to me whether or not it's been presented to the selectmen. I've called Ginny to find out if she presented it or not.
Who's gonna bring it forward, yourself to town meeting?
Ginny said that she would do the warrant.
She would do it.
The warrant
Good.
article, yeah. The last
She's
time I
working,
spoke.
she's working on it, she and I spoke about it
So
yesterday.
she's making it like a pro forma kind of thing then,
Yeah,
that's what it sounds like.
This has really been a cooperative effort between the town and my clients to try and forge a solution here.
Well, if town council is moving forward with it, they may not need our endorsement, or do they?
Well, they'll need the endorsement on the plan. It will be an A&R plan, so that will be endorsed after the town meeting vote.
After town
assuming-
meeting.
Assuming that,
And they may just ask, do we support it? And
Right.
we'd stand there and support it, okay?
so you're not really looking for any action from the board tonight?
Not tonight, we just wanted to
Okay.
make you aware of what was going on, and
That's helpful.
couple changes we're gonna make to this plan is we're gonna try, right now, there's a discrepancy of 10 square
10
feet
square
between
Hmm.
what the town is giving us and vice
Make
versa.
it
So I've
even.
asked the engineer to modify the plan to
Mhm.
find another 10 square feet we can give to the town. So there's an equalization of the land that's being traded. And the second thing I've asked him to do is to put a note on the plan that it doesn't create any additional buildable lots. So it's quite clear that we're
Okay.
not trying to create any
Okay.
lots by doing this.
Members have any other questions?
I don't, I think it's good for the town and good for your client.
Yes,
for
I
your
think it
client.
is one of those rare circumstances where there's a
That's
commonality of
nice.
interest. Yeah.
Is that under there?
Send it here.
Yeah,
Okay.
there's several pieces.
Oh, yeah.
So, are there any other questions?
John, any questions?
Hold on.
Just hold
John,
on.
do you have some questions on this?
Not really, no, I have
I don't either.
no problems with it at all.
Okay, I think we're fine. Thank you for appearing before us. Appreciate it very much.
Thank you all.
Yep, you're welcome. All right, so we will now get to the public hearing, and so at this time, noting the time at 7:42, that we will open and continue the public hearing that we had opened on the March the 8th for a special permit application for multifamily up to 4 and site plan review application for 11 Central Street Byfield, conversion of Methodist Church into 4 townhouse condominium units. The applicant is Chris Horan of Balmoral Development LLC. So if you could introduce yourself and then we can go from there. Thanks.
Paul Schillen, landscape contractor, consultant, and I'm going to
Central Street.
Yes.
cover a little bit of minor changes to the site plan that the engineer has made. He couldn't be here tonight, so it's just a couple of things I can talk with you about. And you guys had also requested a planting plan, so I will give you a copy of this as well. I guess you guys can hand
Yeah,
it down.
sure.
Yeah, I'll go over the planting plan briefly. I don't know that, you might have some specific questions, but I can point things out as to what I've done and then ask some questions.
Okay. So you have, yeah, why don't you take us through it?
Absolutely, absolutely. I'll put that one up here first. I wasn't certain exactly what kind of landscape plan you needed. I wasn't certain whether you needed quantities, varieties. Obviously, I have some suggestions here. As a landscape contractor, I try to give my customer the benefit of the best material that I can find. So a lot of times I find that we have large deciduous trees, we have large evergreen trees, we have medium evergreen, medium deciduous, and I tend to do my estimates based upon a general knowledge that these are the types of trees we're gonna put in. The specifics, in my belief, are not terribly necessary, and it also makes it a little bit harder for landscape contractors to find material. So this plan is based upon that theory. So as I've gone through this, my symbols are, we have mixed species of fir and spruce. So wherever you see those evergreen, the bigger evergreen circles, those are evergreen, obviously large fir or spruce. They're going to be planted at about 10 to 12 feet in height when they're going in the ground. There'll be 10 of those in a variety of places around the site.
Let me stop you for a second, just out of curiosity. So, they're evergreen spruces, are they what, and are they, white fir? Are they, what exactly are they?
Oh, well, you could have Douglas fir, you could have Fraser fir.
And so you say they're gonna be 10 to 12 feet, where do you buy them?
Well, we're trying to actually, I'm using a company called Pearson Nursery up in Maine.
Yeah.
So the reason I do that, this is an evolution of planting that I think is important, where I go to a nursery that generally has more naturalized plants. They're not coming from North Carolina necessarily, they're usually grown in Maine or in New Hampshire, somewhere like that. So Pearson, I know Dale Pearson grows a lot of his material himself, not all of it, but a lot of it has been there for a few years, and he grows it up to what's called a landscape size. So
And it's easy to get 10 to 12 feet.
yes,
Thank you very much.
very easy. 10 to 12 is pretty, that's good size, but that's not
If
too
you
big.
got the money.
We can get them a lot bigger if you'd like some.
Thank you.
Yes. So then we also have some deciduous trees, oak, maple. I could write et cetera next to all of these if I felt it was important to know, whatever species. But again, as I mentioned last week, my intention is to sort of mimic the plants I see in the neighborhood.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to get any sort of exotic species in there. I don't call for Japanese maples, though I do love them in some places, they're great. But it's just basically a reflection of what you see around the neighborhood. So we've also are gonna use 5 dogwoods or birch trees. Again, that would be a small flowering tree type thing where I don't have quite as much room, or it's outside of a window of the building or something like that where it's a little more interesting. Birches, obviously, we see a lot of those around as well. So again, just a direct reflection of the woodland area that's in that neighborhood. We also are gonna use and I say specifically about, well, it'll be 66, at least 66 mixed species of spirea, blueberry, St. John's wort, viburnum, all native plant material. Pretty easy to maintain. The intention again is to not overplant. It's to use the right plants that can get to a mature size and not be needing to be sheared or pruned, and we're not trying to make it look like the suburbs. So that's very specific to this design, is simple and understated. We'll also be using, then we have our evergreens worked in around the design, so everything is blended all together. We have inkberry, rhododendron, azalea, and mountain laurels. Specifically, there's a stone retaining wall down here, a very naturalized retaining wall. There will be a big drift of mountain laurel down in there with some other perennials. The way I usually plant things, I do them in bigger drifts as opposed to 1 of 1, 2 and 2. I do big drifts of them because they are a lot more remarkable that way. They bloom at the same time. They're beautiful, and considering that they are natives, they usually look pretty good the rest of the time of the year anyway. So we use big drifts to make bigger statements, and as if it were again in the woods. That's where you usually get a stand of birch or a stand of mountain laurel or something like that. Then we use a bunch of, depending on what size I can get, perennials, again, big drifts of perennials, daylily, astilbe, hosta, iris, perennial geranium, lady's mantle, phlox, purple cone flower. The intention is to have a little bit of bloom, spring, summer, and
I think
fall.
that's significant. I mean,
Yeah.
you don't need to go anymore.
Yes. Okay.
This is fine.
Good.
And I appreciate you coming by with it.
Sure.
And, but we may have some other questions on the site plan.
I'm sure you do. I have that underneath here.
Yeah.
So, I'll address any of those questions that I can.
Right.
In particular, he talked about the parking and some other things, so.
Right. So I'll just open up to board members if they have any questions on the site plan.
Yes, I have one question about the plantings on the tip up near the parking. They're gonna be rhododendrons and the like, going in at 12 to 24-inch height,
Correct.
right in there, and how high will they grow out there?
Well, we know that they don't wanna get above about 3 feet, so they'd have to be, we don't wanna get in the view of the
Yeah,
roadway
that
and
was
stuff
my
like that.
point.
So,
Right.
that would be, what's nice is some of these mixed species, in particular spirea, even the inkberry, you can bring those back down every 3 years, right, almost to the ground. So you get that nice texture, but they don't get huge. He's going to, let me show you the site plan here, because he's trying to address a little bit of that as well,
Good.
that site view. Specifically, Steve and Chris wanted me to address this parking area. This, of course, was done after I did my planting plan, so there'll be a change here. They're trying to get a little more back out space in here, so it's a little more comfortable for people. They don't necessarily, might not have to back in here. They may be able to back over into this spot. We do have the existing spruce there, so we recommend that in this area, it just be a pea stone material.
Could you, this is actually an area of concern for all of us. Could you just bring it over to the,
Of course.
instead of right here?
So that large spruce remains then, the one?
Yes.
Yeah, okay,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, I think we all have concerns about this parking area. And only because I went out there with my car, and I pulled it forward to exactly that point, and I had the most difficult time getting out of there, and I couldn't imagine if cars were parked next to me, that they would have also a difficult time. And then on
This is
top,
right here.
you know, either one of these, I pulled in this way.
Yep.
I pulled right in here and I parked right there.
Yep.
And I have a small car.
Yep.
And I pulled back here and I had a very, very difficult turning movement to make this thing work.
Yep.
And then I thought, well, if a car is next to me, it's even more difficult.
Mhm.
And if it's snowing, it's almost impossible.
Mhm.
So I think this is a good first step, but I'm wondering if you guys need to go take another look at this, and we want you to make it work.
Sure.
But I'm not sure the best way to make it work, and I'm not gonna tell you I have a solution, but right now, at least I have major concerns about that parking situation. I just, and I expressed it to Martha, and Martha talked to Steve and the like, and that's why
I
you've
think this
done
is a
this.
response to that so far.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, to be honest, yeah, I know in our minutes, I say I'm glad that you kept the tree,
Yeah,
But
it
you
might-
know what?
it might have to go, yeah.
but you know what? I'm not bound to that, because
Yeah.
I'm more concerned with the safety of people driving down and more concerned with the ability of this to work functionally. So I leave it up, back to you guys,
Yes.
and
Understand.
but I think you need to do some work on the parking.
It would look as though you could pick up another half car length by going forward and using more of this land here.
Yeah,
Now, this is the tree, right? that
Yeah.
we're
Yes.
saving. So you could go here, could you not, or is that?
That's a memorial, that's a monument.
monument.
that's the
Yeah.
monument, so that's as far as you can go.
Yeah.
There is,
How about moving the monument? That be it, end of the world? Just move it?
well, that's true, I mean, they
Move it
have
up.
out to here's
Move
the
it up,
road
yeah,
edge
move it up.
out here, however, anything can happen, you can probably move it or slide it over. I think, Steve anticipated your comments on this, so basically I've been instructed to say, okay, yeah, we'll try again. If this tree does need to go, I mean, obviously, as a landscape contractor and designer, we never design around trees, ever, because you never know. You could do all this beautiful design around this beautiful spruce, and it gets knocked down in the next storm.
Right.
So, probably a better idea is to be able to use this space, and whether things get angled or turned, I'm sure that Steve can come up with a solution. And then, a different kind of planting from here. It's obviously important to have some visual buffer so that you're not coming down the road looking right at this building,
And, yeah, and I'm not.
which can easily be done.
Yeah, and the tree gives you a buffer. If you look at it, really, it's the top, the first 14 or 15 feet are almost vacant.
Yep.
They're naked.
Yep.
So you get the buffer up high,
Which it doesn't too
and,
much.
and I'm not sure if
Yeah.
you're actually destroying the image of the beautiful church you're about to rehab. Anyway,
Yeah, I
It's
understand.
not a real good specimen, that tree.
It's not a great
Kinda,
specimen.
Well,
skippy.
I think they'd appreciate the, a little bit of elbow room to redo that.
so, yeah, and looking at, I would look at completely reconfiguring it, because we are also concerned about the safety of people coming out onto Central, not so
Right.
much, I mean, we're not concerned about those, am I right? Those two.
That's fine.
These two are bothersome, and this is the most bothersome, the
Right.
one on Central. So,
Yeah.
and you know what? I know that Steve and Chris know that. I
Sure.
mean,
Oh,
so,
absolutely.
I'm just saying, maybe give you guys a little more flexibility, go back and use it as an open palette. Look at
Yeah, I think that'd
Look
be
at the
great.
total amount of square footage there and see if you
I
can
think
make it work.
everyone's been sort of wanting to block this off anyways,
Yeah.
if you can turn everything in.
Everybody comes in on the
Yeah.
other side,
Yeah,
Right.
absolutely.
you know?
Yeah, and
That'd
the
be
boulder's not tough to move, the monument is a big boulder,
Yeah,
so that's a backhoe.
yeah. Yeah, I don't know that they, well, let's take a look, let's let them figure that out, I think they'd be happy to do that.
Okay.
Especially given the ability to remove the tree, but to replace it with something that's nicer, more appropriate, and that will last another 100 years. That's-
Yeah, because that one could go tomorrow.
Sure, of course.
I have a related concern. It's more aesthetic than anything else, and it looks like that point there is gonna look very crowded.
Yeah,
And you got that beautiful building, but as you approach it, it looks like you're approaching a parking lot, particularly as you got it drawn there with, 6 cars parked there. I think it's,
Well, they can screen
There's
that.
fencing there already, isn't there?
They already can build.
how high is the fence?
Now we know that you can get 10 to 12 foot high species.
Yeah, boy.
Yes.
And where?
And he can plant them right there as you're coming down.
Well,
So, with that, I think that,
let us look at the parking in that, I mean, that's the nicest way, people prefer to be parked right next to their residence to get right into the building,
oh,
but
yeah.
let us take a look at that, if we can get a green space in there, and I think in this triangle up to here somewhere, they have to be creative. And then they also realize that this is a quiet road on this side, and we do know that some people do park on the sides of the road. I don't know what exactly the laws are for that, but we know that there is spillover in here too. So having 2 cars per unit is fine. So you maybe take 4 spots, rearrange them, and not feel like you need the 6,
Maybe.
which would help.
The other thing is, where do visitors park? On the other 2 units, I think the visitors park in the turnarounds, and there's not a problem. This, it's probably gonna be parking on, maybe, right on Church.
Yeah.
You clearly wanna discourage any parking on Central. That should be a mistake. And so I'm not sure if you tell them to put it in their bylaws.
Yep,
You know, visitor parking shall be on Church Street.
yep, yep,
And then they can handle it that way.
yep.
If ingress and egress of the garages is all coming off of Church Street for everybody,
Mm-hmm.
could that fence be closed with a gate for emergency access for fire
Right
equipment?
down through here,
Yeah,
I'm sure.
So,
that might make sense.
wanna take a look at that.
Yeah,
We
that might,
talked about extending the fence because we didn't want, if we do need to rearrange this, we didn't want to just have a lawn panel there. You don't know whether people would misunderstand and drive over it or try to get out.
We don't wanna design it for you, we're just saying, we think
Absolutely.
those are problems.
Yep, I understand.
well, that would minimize the parking lot effect too, if
Well,
you didn't open onto Central and there was some barrier there, you know.
right.
Yep,
Right.
absolutely. Well, it's a nice looking fence, so to extend it beyond that point to here,
Yeah.
it's fine.
Any board members, Peter, you had another question?
I did. I'm trying to just, when the presentation was done last week, we were told that the memorial to the teacher is not on your property. Does this, on C1, represent your lot line, the triangle, that sharp edge?
Right
Yes,
here,
yep.
it looks like it does, yep.
Okay, so then the plantings that you're doing, whose property is that?
Looks like it might be on, I'm not sure, would that have to be tested? I honestly do not know. We'll have to figure that out.
Well,
So-
that would,
It's an interesting.
need to do it quickly.
Oh, no, certainly, yeah, well,
Let me just see this. We're looking at, this is your original,
So that is C1, that's actually the one that,
yep.
I thought that was town property.
This-
it would be down here where all these trees
Yeah.
are.
What's your sense of that, Martha?
I think it's borderline. I know the setback property line is quite far back there. And if you look at this
That's
other,
interesting, because that was all parking.
It's all gravel
here's
right
the-
now.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Here's the street line here, here's the property line, so this whole chunk here.
Which is right now the gravel part, right?
Right, yes.
But they're showing landscaping on it.
And Chris did mention last week that the idea was to regrass that gravel area.
Well, I think we need some clarification on who owns that. Anybody else feel that way?
Yeah, I think we have to check, because we can't be planning allowed to plant in town
No.
property without town.
So
I'd
I
be able to
was,
slide those back.
Yeah. There are some existing, aren't there? Are all those new?
Well, these are the existing, right here,
The
1, 2,
trees,
3,
yeah.
and there's one,
Yeah.
tree right here.
Okay.
some of them are great, one of them's not that great, this one here is not in that great shape. But these two are nicer, and this is
Well,
okay.
and given the fact that this one is marginal because it is so close to the septic system,
Yeah.
this one needs some care. It may be okay, it's big enough tree to make a statement that we should leave it there and clean it up.
But clean, yeah,
And then
exactly,
let it evolve.
that's
like-
fine.
Again, the idea being that, and I would love to know whether we have the ability, we probably do not need to plant within this, if this is town property. It would be nice to use some of that room, but it's also possible to maybe we can slide the septic around a little bit, but let me make sure that I'm within this
All right,
buffer here.
we need to get a I was, no, I wanted to speak out of hand, but I know Chris had wanted this closed tonight. But Martha, I'm looking at you now. This is a larger issue than I thought. This property ownership, because we can't approve something where there might be a question about who owns what.
Right, right.
So I don't know, how do you all feel about that?
It has to be defined.
yeah,
So I think we don't close this hearing.
or what if we just say all the planting must be on the
Yeah, I
property?
was just gonna say,
Just
can we do
say,
it subject to?
Subject to, but then it raises an interesting question, what happens to that property?
And who maintains it?
And who maintains that? I mean, it's like a Never Never Land, and Chris is the only vested interest
Yeah,
right now.
he will take
He's
care
on the other side of the street, and it seems to me that it should be resolved, though, about
You get
who
an
owns it,
easement on something like that? To plant and to maintain?
possible,
It's possible.
sure.
That might be the easiest way to do it.
But the thing is, we don't know that that's the right way to proceed right now.
Right, I mean, that might be a question for
Town
town
council.
council.
Yeah, I think that maybe we need to have that answered. I mean, does he really need to have this thing closed today, or could we keep it continued? I mean, I know he's anxious to get started.
Yeah, I know he's anxious to get started. I don't know if he has any hard and fast constraints.
We could, no, I don't wanna close it. So
Yeah,
as soon as
because
it's
we
closed,
have
it's
to address
closed.
this.
Yeah.
I don't think.
Well,
that-
we were willing to say to the satisfaction of the town planner. We could do that, but this is a bigger issue,
Okay.
the ownership issue.
Would the board want to consider continuing it, but not to the next meeting, which is actually going to be potentially full, but to, say, next week,
Have a special meeting.
have a special meeting?
Wednesday night?
Wednesday night, yeah.
If we can resolve the parking area and determine how best to handle that land, yeah, that'll be fine.
Wait a minute, I'm just trying to
It's
think.
the 23rd.
Well, hold on,
Would that need to be a public,
I've got, I might be, I'm, just may not be back in time.
Yeah, and we need to have everybody.
Everybody,
Does everyone wanna check their schedule for next week?
Yeah,
23rd, I'm not,
I'm good for the
I have
20th.
a conflict potentially.
23rd, 24th, and 25th clear right now. 22nd is the joint meeting.
Right.
The what?
what?
Joint meeting of all boards.
I never got a notice, I didn't, see, I go away on vacation and they just don't give me the notices.
Oh, really? We have,
I was going to talk about that tonight, too.
8 o'clock,
When is that, the 22nd?
yes. Is it 8 o'clock?
Tuesday?
Is it
Not
seven?
sure, it's going to be after their continuation of their public hearing.
Okay.
Because we don't have a next meeting until the 6th.
Right. And we're planning for master plan on the 30th.
My question is, if I do if you say to, oh, you wanna resolve the maintenance of that property, yeah, I'm sure that Chris would be happy to, have me keep my plantings on his property. If that's the one thing that's holding us up, and then at a later date, do we solve the easement issue with the town as he can move forward with this project? I don't think he needs to necessarily solve that to move forward with the project.
or you just don't plan on it.
Just say,
Yeah, just don't plant on it.
Does the septic go onto that at all?
No, it does
No.
not.
no, it doesn't.
Yeah, it's set back.
Now, it gives me about 10 feet in here, and what I'm suggesting is, I certainly can plant within 10 feet. It would be nice to offset things a little bit, but there's creative ways of making that nice. But also, I'm wondering if the septic has the ability, if he can move that back 2 feet or 3 feet, to give me a
Well-
little bit more room.
Here's maybe one way we can do this, is that the plantings on the site plan shall be within the property line as defined. However, the street trees, which you're showing street trees.
Correct.
Shall be coordinated with the town,
That's beautiful.
and then therefore you work it out with the
They
town.
may like some street trees, I'm sure.
You know?
That's the intention of them.
Why
The
don't- why don't-
evergreens can be set back, but the
Can we say that? I'm
Nice.
okay with it.
I'm
maples.
happy with that, as
And
long as
then
it's coordinated with
The
the
maintenance
town.
and care of those trees is the responsibility of,
Well, should,
Well,
You know,
that should be
yeah,
coordinated
well,
with the
that's
town.
coordinated with the town.
Yep.
Wh-
Yep.
Whenever they do that, they'll work it out.
Yeah.
All right,
That's great.
It's
So-
very common that if you have, your property is a part of a town way, you maintain it anyway,
That's right.
so.
right. And in fact, exactly right. This would be like a new subdivision where you've got right-of-way where you've
Mhm.
planted trees.
That's right.
Yeah.
But right
Okay.
now, we would plan on grass
Okay.
only and then work with the
So,
trees.
so,
Yeah.
so we could condition this on that the parking, as we've discussed tonight, be reconfigured to the satisfaction of the town planner.
Yep.
and that the landscape plan be done as shown be within the confines of the property map on the site plan.
Yep.
But that the applicant work with the town to develop a tree planting plan or landscape plan to the satisfaction of the town.
Yep.
Is that okay?
Thanks.
Anything else we wanna talk about?
No. Safety was the main thing for me.
Yeah, it was right too.
I've got one question. Last time Steve described the runoff from the parking areas, going across
Mm.
the lawn, basically.
Mm-hmm.
And, I can see that happening down on the north end, but at the south end where it's very narrow, how is that gonna work?
That would be down here?
Yeah, right. Doesn't.
Well, I'll tell you, one thing that's gonna happen is if this gets closed off, obviously they would wanna, I guess the question is, are they intensifying the runoff? And the question would be no, because there's so much parking and hard surface already around there. But if we were to close this off, I'm sure there'll be ways of redirecting this water down along the property with swales or whatever to work its way down into the back. Does that make sense?
If it can be done, because I know it looks like that one property, that patio, ground floor patio, is very close to the fence line.
Yep, yep.
There's quite a collection of catch basins downhill from that.
But they're
From this,
down this-
yeah, there's a couple along here,
Right,
there's the
right.
catch basins across the street. As you go down here, there's one here and one across the street.
Right,
And I think there's one up there.
but we had talked about,
We're talking about the point, yes,
right,
I
the
understand.
point, and runoff being treated before it,
I'm sorry?
and runoff being treated before it infiltrates anyplace.
Well, this runoff is going to have a chance to run across grass or run along a grass strip
Oh, all the way
for some period of time.
down the side here.
Yeah.
Right, right.
You'd have to have a swale in there.
These are another matter. I mean, these are going to be running this way.
Right,
Correct.
this is the area I was
Yeah.
concerned about.
I don't think, we have fence here, we still have 10 more feet. There should be plenty of room to let water work its way right down in a swale, in a very unnoticeable swale, as it percolates down through there. Yeah, I think that'd be fine. I don't think we'd want 100% of the water to go down in here, because some of it should be able to get out and get down into the catch basin. But there's 10 feet, and on the outside of that fence, I think that would be enough room to do that. And more than likely, you probably wouldn't even make it very far before it would start to really get into the ground, into the grass. I suppose there's always ability to do subsurface drainage in here. You can always put, if you guys really think that it needs to happen. I think the intention was to not have more runoff than's already there.
Right, he was
Oh, yeah.
decreasing it by
That's the
10%.
idea.
Right.
So,
But if you do have a big concern about that, I don't think that it would be an expense issue, but if you had to capture this water, you could certainly do it. Either in another dry well, could we have another dry well over up in here?
No, you're in a water supply district, and direct infiltration is a no-no.
It's gotta be filtered.
And there isn't room enough there to effectively treat for a direct inclusion into the ground.
Is it enough if there's a stone swale coming down through here?
There's-
Decorative stone
Yeah,
swale.
I don't see that, I don't see a problem with that. You've cut back the overall runoff very dramatically, because now everything goes, before everything went off the site.
Right.
And now you've got this, and all of this that are going into the ground,
Yep,
the Caltex,
yep.
these guys.
Okay,
And,
yep.
you have added these, but this is a rough equivalent to those two. And this one doesn't represent a large portion of the existing building.
He's got the same drainage treatment here
that
that
was
he
for
had
the,
here.
this
Well,
was for
he's-
the roof, this was for the roof runoff, which
He
is,
he
which
is
is
going, he
clean.
was going to rework that. Apparently, he hasn't yet. Has he? This is not a brand-new drawing from
this-
the next week,
no,
last
this is-
week, is it?
No, this is an old one, so these are
I'm
gone.
sorry, it's what?
These are gone.
Right, so they're still shown on the drawing, but they're not going. So this stuff is just gonna run off
Okay,
across
yep,
the grass.
yep. Well, I guess that can be, if the board feels that we need to address that more specifically, that should be part of the whole parking realignment situation.
Yeah, it could be part of the condition that,
That you're satisfied, yeah.
Okay, so here we are. Anything else that we want to talk about?
One question, George and I, we were talking about safety, and I think we've resolved the parking up here. Now, people still fly down that road. Would it be considerate or conceivable to make that a four-way stop at Lunt and Central?
That's up to the town,
It is, okay.
and you may well not recommend that
Yeah.
as part of our decision, and that we would recommend to work with the town to consider a full stop coming on to Church, right?
Right, because I just think this person coming out of this driveway onto Central is gonna have a real hard time.
But you're not gonna have it at Central.
No, it would be at Lunt Street, so they would have to
Oh, at
stop.
Lunt.
So it'd stop in either direction, so basically you would create a four-way stop. So you're
Put a
slowly,
crosswalk in?
Usually, you'd have to have, the DPW would have to do a study.
yeah, and
The way
actually,
that is, it's like and they determine whether
Study.
or not it's
Yep.
necessary.
Yep.
right, and there actually was a traffic study down there,
Yes.
Howard Stein Hudson, as part of the whole Byfield traffic improvements. And, I don't think that there was enough to justify. It actually has to, it has to satisfy certain requirements from the state in order to justify putting in a stop sign.
prior to this now being residential and somebody pulling out onto it.
Yeah, I don't know, I mean, it could be looked at again.
I think that it's not the applicant's responsibility to do that, I don't think.
Okay.
Even, because they're not, if they were adding a significant amount of cars,
Right.
we would make it their responsibility. But it's just a concern that we have, because instead of having, everything on Sunday, you're not gonna have stuff periodically during the day. So I think it's really our problem as opposed to the applicants, but it doesn't mean we can't work with DPW to see if in fact, because you have new uses here, they may wanna consider it. But it is up to the counts, and they have to justify it.
It must be in the, do you guys have you must have a town plan. That whole road is way too wide. You could put street trees all the way down there and slow everyone down. It's surprisingly wide right there. I don't really understand that, but getting
Well-
trees in there would help a lot too.
It would,
All the way in.
it would slow people down.
Sure.
It really would.
That would be beautiful.
Yep.
Well, we're gonna look at that.
Make that as part of our spruce up the
Okay.
Byfield area
That's right.
Master plan.
master plan.
So what's the thought of the board? Are we okay with having these conditions and closing the meeting? What do you all think?
Continuing.
No, right now,
They've got to come in with some additional,
and what we were
want the
saying.
parking issue resolved.
Three conditions.
Here's our options. One option was, we close the meeting and, have, concerns that we have about parking, and that the parking be reconfigured, based on the meeting notes that we have here, be reconfigured and done to the satisfaction of the town plan. In other words, we're gonna give that to Martha. And that the strip area right now is kind of like some kind of a mix of concrete and gravel. Be that the applicant work that out with the town and develop a planting plan satisfactory to the town. But those are conditions, and then we close the meeting. Is that okay? Or A, B, we continue the meeting, ask them to come back with the answers to these things, and we have it at, I know, I can do it next Wednesday, that's the problem, but next,
Some other
or
time.
some other time,
Right.
the 6th, at our next the 6th, of course, is gonna be Borrego.
I would think
Well-
if you, as chairman, are comfortable having the town planner make that decision and call.
I am,
Then
I am.
I have one other question, though. Was there a third condition, the runoff?
And excuse me, the planning, the parking plan and runoff as part of that.
Now, the process will be that there will be a draft decision, written up.
In other words,
so
we're not
that
deciding tonight.
No vote is being taken tonight. But
Oh,
if you
okay.
close, if you feel that you have all the information that you need, you can close the public hearing and then authorize me to draft the decisions based on whatever criteria and conditions.
And if they haven't met the conditions, of course, we don't sign it, right? If they haven't come and met
Or,
the parking conditions to your satisfaction, or haven't developed started a discussion with the town about parking, or agreed to it. No,
Right.
we'd like something in writing from them that they'll do that.
and I guess the condition could either be, if the board votes on the decision, those conditions kind of move forward, but they could be, say, the building permit could be conditioned on satisfying those requirements.
That's fine with me. Well, what do we all think?
I'm ready to close the hearing.
Yeah,
Jim?
yep, I am too.
I'm okay with that.
Okay.
So we need a
So,
motion to close the
do you want to close this hearing before we give you the conditions?
The hearing is really to gather information, so
yeah.
then you can go
Okay.
over the condition back.
So
and
let's
forth, but
let's
just
have a
don't vote on
motion,
anything. Go
then
to
let's,
closing.
can I do it unilaterally, or do we need a motion?
Need a motion.
All right, I need a motion to close the meeting.
I move to close the public hearing in this matter.
And I second that.
Any further discussion, or any input that anyone wants? All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so we are then directing the town planner to develop the decision. And as part of that decision, it should include conditions.
Do you want to go over the conditions from the bylaw?
I do. But before I did that, I wanted, so you want me to do those first? Oh, that probably makes sense. Yep, let's do that. This is laborious, but it's what we have to do. Um, Did you all get those documents that we had last week?
Yes.
And you should have in front of you the special permit decision that we made for 33 High Road, which is the Woodbridge School, just as reference. And then Chapter 97 zoning, Article 9, special regulations. And we have on page 2, similar to what we've done for Borrego and others, these are the decision criteria that the planning board, and I'm gonna read through and then ask opinions as we go through, or dissents or consents. The decision criteria for the site permit are: the planning board shall approve an application for site plan review if it finds that the applicant has submitted sufficient information from which it can determine that the proposed project will, A, minimize the volume of cut and fill, the number of removed trees, 6 inches or caliber or larger, the area of wetland vegetation displaced, soil erosion, the threat of air and water pollution, and traffic congestion. Anybody have any concerns about any of those issues?
I have no comment.
Okay. B, anybody okay? All right.
Yep.
Yes.
B, avoid removal of existing stone walls, or where removal is required, minimize length of removal, not applicable. Provide adequate stormwater management and other utilities consistent with the requirements of Newbury's stormwater bylaw and the planning board's subdivision rules and regulations. Now, I think we're okay. John, can I ask you a question as
Sure.
a consultant and not as a voting board member on this?
Of course, you will get a bill, you realize.
Yes. So my question to you is, because the applicant's designer isn't here, our stormwater bylaws, is this plan consistent with the bylaws?
Yeah, basically, our stormwater bylaw, with a handful of exceptions, which really don't make any difference to this site because it's so small, simply mirrors what the state tells us to do anyway. It's nothing that we dreamt up ourselves. There's 3 or 4 places where the state rules and regulations are hopelessly outdated, and I tried to bring them up into the 21st century. But outside of those, they're in compliance to the best of my knowledge, they are
Okay.
in compliance with, and I just ran a very quick and dirty on the parking lot in question.
did.
And I'm getting about 700 of a cubic foot per second coming off that in something approaching a 50-year plus storm. And one doesn't design for a 100-year storm anyway, but you just make sure you're not gonna have Armageddon as a result of it. You just let the culverts overflow and the catch basins overflow.
solve
But
the
yes, to
problem.
answer your question, yes, I believe that we are in compliance with everything we should be in compliance with stormwater-wise.
Thank you. D, maximize safety for pedestrians and vehicles both on the site and entering onto and egressing from it. Well, again, best with our conditions, we feel okay with that, right?
Yes.
Provide adequate access to each structure for fire and emergency service equipment. We have information from the fire and police department. F, minimize obstruction of scenic views from publicly accessible locations. Don't think that's a problem. G, minimize visual intrusion by controlling the visibility of parking, storage, or other outdoor service areas viewed from public ways or premises residentially used or zoned. Okay. H, minimize intrusion of glare from headlights and site lighting on surrounding properties. So that's kind of like your point, Jim, of when it's coming down. I mean, that should be screened, okay? Minimize unreasonable departure from the character, materials, and scale of buildings in the vicinity as viewed from public ways and places. Okay?
No problem.
John, I'm just going back to H, though, is, I think.
You know what, I had it wrong. That's
That's
headlights from the proposed use.
Right, not
Thank you.
impacting
Than't you.
its use.
After I finished talking about it, I realized that. J, prevent contamination of groundwater from any source. Well, I guess we assumed that has been the case. K, enhance the appearance of the property to the greatest degree possible by means of landscaping and other amenities. Fine. L, minimize impacts of the use on adjacent properties through regulation of hours of operation. That's not appropriate. Ensure compliance with the provisions of the Newbury zoning code, including parking and signs notwithstanding the above regulations of uses and structures referred to, blah, blah, blah. So I think that our decision criteria have been met. So I guess we would direct town planner to develop a decision for this project that we can review at our next meeting with conditions. Do you wanna go over those right now? And should I give my best effort of what I think they are?
Yeah.
So, and Steve, so we would like, the parking area to the south, want to give you leeway to redesign the whole thing, because we think that it's not adequate. We think it's dangerous, and they think that potentially dangerous.
Is your concern the cut onto
We're-
Central?
Cut onto Central plus the amount maneuverability within the area. And so we kind of give you free rein to look at the entire area. You may not need to keep the tree. You might want to look at extending it as far as you possibly can to get the greatest amount of maneuverability in there. And what we're gonna say is that we're gonna close the meeting tonight, we just closed it, and that you simply present your redesign to the town planner, who we are delegating to approve this for us, okay? At the same time, there are some stormwater issues that come with the increased amount, and we're not sure about that, so if you have to look at those also shall be approved by Martha at that time, okay? So I just kind of said that, but did you catch that? Is that enough, Martha? Okay. That's the first condition. The second condition is, we're looking at this plan, Steve, and I'm not gonna add the condition, I wanna ask you a question. We're looking at the property that's really outside your property line, and there's proposed street trees on it. And in the site plan, There are street trees proposed for that area.
So you're saying this area down?
Yeah, right. And so,
So, is on the landscape plan, or?
yeah, it's on the landscape
Oh,
plan, and
okay.
there's proposed trees on it.
Okay.
So all we're saying, we like to say, and as condition, is that the applicant meet with the town and develop a planting plan that's acceptable to both parties. Because it's not your land, it looks like it's town land.
Yeah.
All right, so that will be so our second condition is that the applicant meet with the town officials, appropriate town officials, to develop a planting landscape plan for the area that's not within their ownership, but was clearly in the town's right-of-way on Lunt Street. Okay? So those would be the conditions on top of our decision tree. Anything else?
Yeah,
So we've closed it. Martha will come up with a decision. You need to work with Martha on the parking and also with Chris to make sure he's comfortable with the plan. I'm sure he is, because he's an abutter. I mean, you're almost across the street. He's gonna want it to look as nice as possible. And to develop a plan that probably is worked out with you. Who's Doug?
Well, it'll be the tree warden,
Okay, so, but your contact is Martha.
and probably the selectmen.
Yeah, okay? Anything else we need to do on this?
What about the special permit?
Well, let me ask you. The special permit, didn't I just give you the,
That was site plan review.
no, but I know that. No. But the conditions I just gave are for the special permit.
I thought they were for this, site plan review.
Well, let's think about that. Aren't they more appropriate for the special permit? Hold on. No, they're not.
They have their own.
No, they're not.
Multifamily, so they're really approving site plan review.
So what do we, but I'm not clear what we even find.
So I think, if you look at the, special permit decision for the Woodbridge School, which is the closest model we have, which is also for multifamily up to 4. Page 3, there are findings. So if the board is comfortable with those findings, we can carry those into.
Let's just take it. First of all, we assume that we have all of the reference material, the project is defined, and the findings, the project makes the following, I'll read it and see if we're comfortable with it. The board makes the following specific findings of fact with regard to the special permit for the 11 Central Street in Byfield. This matter is properly before the board, and the applicant is qualified to apply for the relief requested. The applicant has properly filed an application with the planning board for a special permit for the redevelopment of the property into multifamily dwellings, including conversion of, the Methodist Church building into 4 residential condominium units. Construction, that's it. The proposed use, multifamily dwellings up to a limit of 4 units, is allowed by special permit in the in the Byfield Business District. Is that what it's called, Byfield? Byfield Village District, per Newbury zoning bylaw 97-3, Table of Regulations. And number 4, the proposed redevelopment is in harmony with the general purpose and intent of the Byfield Village Business District. Do you want to add anything else? It's not necessary, is it?
No, I think that's sufficient. And then there were
I think that's
conditions-
fine.
There were conditions on page 4, which are kind of standard lapse. Downtown approval isn't applicable, preservation restriction isn't applicable, so it'd mostly be the time.
Recordation, lapse, and progress review, and Board of Health.
Right.
Well, I don't think we need to read them. Why don't we just say that those are fine? Again, you think, are there other conditions we'd like to have? We haven't certainly talked of them. They really all, you're right, all the conditions were on the site plan. Okay, so, so do we want to then bring a motion forward for the town planner to write a decision on this, including the findings as I've just read, and including the conditions of approval, items 1, 2, 3, and 4 in the model that was presented to us.
So moved.
So moved?
Second.
Any further discussion of those?
No.
All those in favor?
Aye.
You're all right.
We'll be discussing any performance guarantee. I'm just gonna let them do it.
I didn't have it for here.
And the site plan review.
George raises a question of, do we have any performance guarantee? And I know we have it generally for special permits, but we didn't raise it in this at all. Mainly because there's really not a lot of public,
Yeah,
you know, we had it
there we had it,
with Angelo because of Sled Road.
because of Sled Road, we didn't do one with, Mike Houlihan for Roots to Wings, we didn't do one for Chrissy.
We didn't do one over, well, that was site plan review over here, correct?
Yes.
The yellow school, or the Woodbridge
Woodbridge.
school?
Woodbridge School was
No, it wasn't,
special
because we
permit.
didn't, it was only special permit because multifamily wasn't applicable under site plan review at the time, it is now.
Well,
So-
are we past asking for that, the I mean,
Well, I guess it's up to the board to decide whether it would be appropriate.
I'd have to go back and reread, I know we made changes to the whole performance guarantee provisions, where we decided we didn't want to get caught like we had in the past with certain projects. And so we did want to have some performance guarantee, but I thought we're pretty clear that we weren't gonna do it just to private development.
Right, and it's at the board's discretion.
It's discretionary.
It's cover costs of non-building construction, including street disturbance, utilities, erosion control measures, stormwater management measures, and other on-site and off-site improvements which present a public health and safety
See,
hazard.
yeah, I don't see it.
So,
This is it's like an urban site, it's one of our few urban sites that's just there. So it's glad you brought it up.
I raised it, I don't think one is necessary.
Okay, what do you think? Be nice if we could have a little time to think about it, but.
I don't have a reaction one way or the other. I
Yeah.
don't feel like I know enough to.
Well, the problem is we had gotten burned by the Angelo project where we just, we wanted a performance and a time warranty and then, I just don't know why we would be justified in doing it this time, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like it's gonna be a very contained site, there,
Right.
most of the things that are mentioned here for performance guarantee really don't apply.
I mean, if he was disturbing the street, if he was
Yeah,
bringing in
that's-
utilities, if he was doing all, absolutely.
I mean, he's putting in some new water lines,
But,
but
yeah.
across Church Street, from the water main on Church Street, but it's minimal.
And actually, that's between him and the Byfield District. Anybody have any thoughts on this, Jim or Pete? No. Well, okay, we'll just not do it.
Good decision.
All right. No decision is oftentimes the best. Sleep on it decision. All right. Keep on losing my agenda. Ongoing subdivision rules and regulations, review comments. John?
Well, we didn't manage to get a hold of Joe during the period since the last meeting. We have a date with him tomorrow morning at 9:00. It's more a courtesy thing than anything else, and I know what I want to do. Most of his points are well taken. In fact, they're all well taken. A lot of them don't appear to represent the the current thinking in stormwater management, green infrastructure. Also, he rightly points out that I think the wording in the bylaw or in the rules and regulations regarding saving trees is probably a bit awkward, and that could be improved. And I was gonna ask his help, and I'm.
We talked about that last time.
Yes, we did. And I think, hopefully we got time tomorrow to just sit down and work something. If he doesn't get it, that's important, because he should get it. Other people will never get it if Joe doesn't get it, because he's knowledgeable. There was at least one area where I had caught something that I screwed up on earlier, never changed it yet, but he caught it also. That's the 1% slope on a road. You don't want it more than that. More than that is a problem. Less than that is also a problem. 1% is a good number. What I would like to do, and I don't know if this will work, Martha, before the end of the month, establish a date, advertise for a public hearing, even if it is,
It says in our minutes that we're gonna establish it tonight,
we are gonna establish it tonight, good.
so let's do it.
Okay, fine.
So,
Is that gonna be okay with you?
yeah, I mean, we'll have,
You've got time to, there'll be a few changes we're gonna make.
right, we have to get, it will have to be advertised a minimum of 2 weeks before the
Right.
date, so we'll have to have a final draft
Yep.
ready by that time.
So what,
The first time that it hits the paper.
Right.
Right.
Right,
It would be the final draft that we will present to the public.
right.
It would not necessarily have to be what we think is the final draft. Correct me if I'm wrong.
think that's it.
We can change our mind during the public hearing.
during the,
Can we not?
that's why you have it.
Right,
Exactly.
right,
So,
right, and incorporate any comments.
and incorporate at that point. But I think we ought to do the best we can to get it as close to
Well-
what we really want to do.
I will leave it up to you two to pick the date, because it's all on you.
Yeah, I would give us plenty of time, as long as, again, this is something we were asked to do in 2003, and somehow it's just too much trouble to do it. As long as I can say by the 1st of May, when the report to EPA is due, that we have a public hearing advertised for sometime in April, I'm happy.
Fine.
Because it can be argued that we were all ready by the end of the year, end of our reporting year. It just took a while to get
So
the ad out and
it's
so
the
forth.
6th to the 20th to the what, 27th? Want to have it a week after that? Or do you want to have it at our meeting?
Well, it's up to the board. I mean, it could be,
Can
It
we
would
have it
be-
at our meeting?
I don't see why not. We're meeting the 6th for 20th.
20th.
Is
do the
that time
20th?
enough?
yeah, and we'll have to.
Yeah, it should be, I
hustle a
would
little
think.
bit,
Yeah,
Okay.
Okay.
Force the hustle. Let's do it.
yeah, okay,
All right, April 20th.
yeah.
So, board want to take a vote on that?
That would be very
Have a
good.
motion? Set-
Just set it.
I mean, it's not a big deal. It's only
Public
$17,000 a year fine for not doing what we're supposed to do with the EPA.
The town of Newbury
That's chump change, of course.
on April 20.
April 20th at a time certain.
Certain at 7:15.
Okay, have a second?
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Just while we're on the subject, you guys want to start the roads 101 again? We pretty much covered roads in general. What we didn't cover was stormwater management, and I think there should be somebody besides me. Really.
Yep.
So, 6 o'clock, if you can make it, Elizabeth, good. I know you have time constraints, and
Yeah,
they don't always let you out of work when,
if I can make it, I'd
there's
like
no
to do it.
whistle that blows in a professional office.
So this is 6 PM on the 20th.
Does anybody have any issues with this they want to talk about?
No, I was waiting for your meeting with Joe.
Yeah, yeah. The differences will not be great. We will hopefully have less clumsy wording on
And you're gonna do that
saving
tomorrow?
trees.
All right.
9
So
o'clock
let's-
tomorrow,
Let's
yeah.
see how that goes. All right.
Yep.
Chapter 61A, Notice of Intent, 323R, High Road. What do we do now? I thought this was, do we have to make a decision?
Yeah, the selectmen want the recommendation. They're holding their public hearing on this on April 12th, and they wanted the recommendation from the various boards by the end of this month. did, I sent an email to the developer, didn't hear anything back in terms of what their intentions are. I
Hmm.
can kind of guess at it based on what's there, but,
What could they do, I guess?
well, the only
I mean,
thing I can think is it's, since it has no frontage itself, there's a little knob of upland there, which is contiguous to another vacant parcel that does have frontage
Yeah,
on High
they
Road.
have to be thinking of fusing those two together.
So my guess is that that's what they're doing, and all I can figure is that they could potentially get 2 A&R lots out of it. Because there's only about a little over 2 acres of upland.
Well, why can't we recommend to the selectmen that we'd like to have more information from the developer about how he intends to develop the property? Because right now, there's no way he can develop it without having access to the road.
Right. But
Why can't we say that?
I guess the question really is,
That's not before us.
I mean, the options really are to say that it has municipal
Right.
use, which the board has already determined it doesn't.
Right.
Conservation use, in which case the recommendation would be to
I'm sorry, I'm not hearing a word again,
Um,
sorry, but,
whether the parcel has municipal use,
the which?
whether 323R
Yeah.
has any use to the town,
Yeah,
which the board has already said
yeah,
it doesn't.
right.
Whether there is any conservation benefit,
Yeah.
and if the right of first refusal should be transferred to
Yeah.
another organization. Or just say, go
Yeah.
forward with it, and it's really,
I'd be
That's it?
inclined to go with the latter if they're interested. It's a fallback, thank you very much, let it be developed. If it can be developed.
because it will have to go through process anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the checks and
And
balances.
it's not gonna be the easiest thing in the world to build something right against the salt marsh, even if we lose our minds momentarily and approve it. DEP will jump right on it, they are rabid about salt marshes,
Yeah, I'm surprised, anyway,
yeah.
I mean, it'd be interesting to find the property owner if he would talk to you about it.
I bumped into him the other day and I just totally forgot to ask what he had in
Yeah,
mind there.
yeah. So, we wanna say that, okay? Anybody have any
We just
feelings
have to
about
look
it?
at that lot as a standalone, we can't say what is he gonna connect it to, so.
It's unfortunate,
You just
because
look at it
that's what
blind.
you'd like to know, right?
We do.
Right, what do we wanna say? That it's fine? Is that what we're saying?
It has no purpose for the town.
It has no purpose for the town,
Yeah.
therefore, have at it.
Well, don't we have to, isn't it a decision tree, though, that we have to decide whether it's no purpose for the town, which already has been decided, but no conservation value?
Conservation value.
I mean, can we say that we haven't been presented with any evidence to suggest it has conservation? I mean, I personally hate to say that a salt marsh has no conservation value, because I think inherently it does. But nobody's come before us
Saying they
to
want it.
say that the town, to advocate that the town should exercise. I hate to say that a salt marsh has no conservation value.
Oh, it has tremendous, but you
It-
can't do anything with it.
I
mean,
understand that, but.
It's gotta stay in conservation.
Right, so,
Right,
so-
I see what you're saying,
Nature.
yeah, okay. But,
I think it abuts refuge property, it would make sense actually if.
Yeah, to-
But I
why
have,
don't we say that?
Yeah, why would we not
We note that it.
pass first refusal on?
We note that it abuts refuge property, is it refuge or reservation property?
I think it's refuge.
I mean, I don't know, it's hard
Um,
for me to because I wasn't a decision-making
one of the
process
private
on the
organizations
255.
that it abutted.
But I think that the
'Cause
way
I
that
remember being
read was
surprised that
very
it
similar
did.
to what we're saying, no municipal use, but you
They're
could see how it would
exploring
have
somewhere.
conservation use. If there's somebody coming forward, we would
Yeah.
recommend exploring that. You're not I mean, we're not,
Yeah, let's use
taking-
the same language
Okay,
used for
let's-
255.
Okay.
Okay.
I like the idea of being consistent, too.
That's good. In fact, this even not more, I think more so. I mean, it really is, what, 90% salt
Right,
marsh,
just-
Yep.
right?
What's that?
It's 90% salt marsh, that property,
90%?
salt marsh.
Oh, yeah, in that order of magnitude, certainly.
Okay. New business, N-O-N-E. That's Italian for nonne.
Wait.
It's like, is that another acronym I haven't learned yet?
Nonne, or nonna. Liaison reports, selectmen.
A couple things that happened after you all left the other night. The selectmen did vote to support, application for, grant application for partial removal of the Larkin Dam.
Oh, really? Oh.
And they also voted, Nick Cracknell came before the board again, regarding the culvert on Larkin Road.
Yeah.
And, that's the one where, developer wants to do a subdivision in property that's in Georgetown but fronts on Larkin
Mhm.
Road. And, the proposal was that the developer would rebuild the culvert if, the town repaves it. And I think they were supportive of that as well.
Good. I mean, that,
Yeah, that sounds almost too good to be true. That's a good deal.
yeah. And I think I asked you this, but what about repaving the rest of Larkin Road? You're saying the residents don't want it anyway?
Yeah, they actually didn't even want this to be done, and I don't know where paving of Larkin Road
Yeah,
falls on the
geez.
pavement management plan that's been developed. That may have been low priority because residents were happy.
Okay.
You'd expect he would pave the whole thing while he's there and not just pave a small portion. It would only make sense to pave the
Only
entire
makes
road.
sense to do the entire, and the road is in atrocious condition. I mean, it's embarrassing. And I understand that some people like that, but.
That's the way we like them in Newbury.
MVPC,
Slows
we
down
haven't
the
met
yuppies.
since we did it, so. Nothing from them. Concom, anything new?
Yeah, speaking of salt marshes, we had an interesting presentation, there were notice of intent that we had to vote on. A young woman from Wellesley who's working on a science project came in with a study, and I forget which university, I don't think it was Wellesley was sponsoring it, but they're working on it, to try to, over a several-year period, try to figure out the amount of carbon dioxide sequestration you get from a salt marsh. They're doing it out in the general vicinity of Triton versus the amount of greenhouse gas emissions you get from the methane, because of course, that's what methane is swamp gas. And the salt marsh generates a fair amount of methane, and that is a wildly effective greenhouse gas. Way, way, way worse than carbon dioxide. The good news is that carbon dioxide lasts for centuries, and methane only lasts for a relatively few years before it gradually finds its way into combination with other elements and goes away.
She at Wellesley College or Wellesley High School, or just from
No,
Wellesley?
it was Wellesley College, yeah.
Oh, it was.
Yeah, no, she was not a high school kid, she was so I told her, we agreed that her ticket to ride, to way she'd get approval if we got a copy of the report. So,
That's interesting.
no mention was made of the issue out of the playing fields. That is something I don't think anyone particularly wants to talk about, for obvious reasons.
George?
ZBA. Yeah, well, I was not at the February 18 meeting of the ZBA, and it was actually a very active meeting with 5 issues going on. The first was case of David Mullen at 27 Northern Boulevard, seeking increase the height of the building and lot coverage for a proposed dwelling on the lot as a change to an existing non-conforming structure. That was continued and put till tomorrow night. It appears it will be continued again.
It will be
Martha?
continued again.
Okay.
I'm handling the ZBA meeting tomorrow.
That's right. Martha will be there tomorrow night. And there's a case of Scott and Jenna Sinkior, I guess that's the name, 4 Rolfs Lane. They had a variance request for relief from the zoning bylaws, as a proposed lot line change would not meet minimum requirement of 125 feet of frontage at 4 Rolfs Lane. That was allowed.
Right, and we had discussed that previously, and the A&R plan has been submitted, but I advise that they should wait until the appeal period is done before it actually comes before the board for endorsement. So that's what they've agreed to do.
There was a matter of Peter and Diane Tufts at 25 Pine Island Road, requesting approval of a detached accessory apartment. which will require the granting of a special permit issued by the Newbury Zoning Board of Appeals. That was continued until tomorrow night.
Is that an existing one that you just were legalizing, or what? Very in touch. A special permit for relief from, it's not clear.
I think they wanna build a new structure.
I think it's a new structure.
Be nice, would it? Good.
That's great.
25 Pine Island.
And another one at 13 Fatherland Drive, party named Danda, is that the name? Is requesting a special permit finding for relief from the zoning bylaw as approval of a detached accessory apartment will require the granting of a special permit issued by the Newbury Board of Appeals.
What's that address on Fatherland Drive?
13.
And the last, Thomas Daniels, 4949th Street, to increase the height of a structure located at that address as a change to a non-existing or existing non-conforming use. I don't know what the result of that was, Martha. I couldn't get it. Can find out. But that's what's going on at the,
Now, are they meeting once a month?
yes, the third Thursday of each month if needed.
Well, that's a pretty active agenda.
That is.
And I'm happy to see the two accessory apartments. Interesting. Okay, anybody else have anything else for the?
Yes. Are you in a rush to get out of here? I have another 20 minutes to go.
We have an early plane to catch.
Okay. Did you want to report on the housing
Oh,
focus group of February 29th?
yes,
Well,
because
we
you
can
said
defer that.
you were gonna
Yeah.
do that. Well, I guess we should have a general discussion of where we are with a lot of stuff. Do we have the meeting set for the, the task force, the master plan task force?
The whole committee.
The whole committee?
Yes, that was one thing I wanted to announce tonight, so that'll be March 30th, Wednesday.
March 30th, okay. That's everybody.
That's everybody.
I heard March 30th, and that was all. What else?
Master plan.
Oh, master plan? Here?
Yeah, let's do it here. We've tried to do the other ones. Let's do it like 7 o'clock.
Right here?
Here.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's the really best here.
Yeah, they are. So, with that, yes, maybe give a summary of that.
Yeah, briefly, Martha had suggested to a fellow named George Kohler.
Yeah, and actually it was John Wilkinson, who's on the personnel board here, came into my office. He's associated with Habitat for Humanity. And he came in to see if I had any thoughts on any parcels that might be available for them to acquire. And I mentioned the housing working group. And so he expressed interest, couldn't come, but he had the executive director of the Merrimack Valley Habitat for Humanity come to that meeting.
To your meeting?
Yes,
Oh.
very nice fellow. He came down, they would like to increase their scope, their range of scope of where they do their work down the Merrimack River towards Salisbury, Newburyport, and that area. So that's good. They're looking for rentable lots primarily. Was if they can rent a parcel, they will go in and put a house on it and build it and put a family into it, which I think is good. They don't want to have to buy the land necessarily.
Well, that's what makes it affordable.
Yeah.
Right, I thought, and I think they've just acquired a parcel in Amesbury and a parcel in Salisbury. And what they will do sometimes is they will actually acquire the land, prospective owner will put the sweat equity in the house. And I think it then is a kind of a lease situation
Right.
with the land.
Right.
So our dilemma is we don't have a lot of lots sitting around.
No, but I was gonna, we went through an exercise with Kathleen several years ago on surplus property. And, there might be something there. They also are interested in properties in foreclosure, bank-owned properties.
I don't know that we have, we're not up on that. We don't really know.
There's
Yeah,
some,
no.
they show up on Zillow,
But they also look at conservation operations, green belt and so on. If they have some high ground that they're not particularly using and it's safe to build on, and won't affect what they have it for, then they could ask them to see if they can't build a house in that location, right, it's near a road or highway. Which I thought was interesting. Anyway, primarily, the discussion involved the need for more affordable low and income housing. And perhaps how to create it. We discussed the Community Preservation Act, which didn't pass the last go around. Perhaps it will pass at some time in the future, but as you know, 40% of those funds can be used for low and income housing. Talking about conversion of existing residential property, if there's talk about population going down or houses becoming vacant and available, property like that could be used and converted into low-income housing or moderate-income housing. Use of accessory apartments, encouraging that. Work with developers to set aside units in a development OSRD. Zoning change to reduce minimum lot size to a half acre in areas where you have suitable water and good soils for septic.
Yeah, that really does make sense, but where are we, Martha, with that map? Did Gerard do that?
The existing one, yes, hasn't been updated.
We said we would need that for this March 30th meeting. We need to have, where are all the utilities and what are the soils like near them? Can Gerard do that, or do you need to do that?
No, he should be able to.
He should be able to do that. And he's under contract, so.
Martha, isn't that package of maps that we got, the large ones?
Yeah,
Is that
but
included?
it doesn't have the overlays on it.
Yeah, okay. It's gonna be overlaid.
But that's a good working, if we can get that, that's a good working map to answer that question. You know, where do we have utilities and where are the soils suitable for development?
Yeah, and then, Peter was at the meeting also, and we talked about 40R as a possibility, looking at sites like JRM and, what's the other one?
Pearson.
Pearson Plaza. But we discussed that on the Economic Development Group too, so it's a balance of what you do. If you had something at JRM, for example, like the Little River Plan, I don't think that might be brought up again for consideration.
Yeah?
That's a town issue, and that it also was a Newburyport issue, very clearly. Pearson Plaza is 45 acres, has water. I don't know what the septic situation is in there.
The problem with Pearson, as opposed to, is that to really do, I mean, we all thought we could do a major project, but that's a major redevelopment effort,
Oh, it is.
you know, which means that, and it has a lot to do with the existing property owners, and it's worth looking at, but.
It was
'cause it's
tossed
got
out for
water.
consideration.
Cause it's got water,
Right.
And location.
and it's got
It's right on the highway,
great
yeah.
location. So that's one of those situations, I don't know who does it, but somebody goes and talks to Mr. Pearson and has a discussion about what his plans are for the future. So, but I think that's where you start, and I think it's a good thing. Should have that discussion.
Well, we probably ought to take a look at it again.
I
'Cause that would
agree.
be multi-use.
Yeah.
Good for the town. And the other discussion was dealing with the real estate tax rate. It's very low, and it generates large housing on large lots, because large houses are not taxed very heavily in this town, comparatively.
Is that right?
Well, yeah, we have a low tax rate. If you build a large Newman Road house out in Amesbury, the taxes would be double what they are here.
Well, but it wouldn't be valued at 2.5 million.
Well,
It'd be
taxes are
valued
very-
at 1.5.
the taxes out there are very high.
They are high. The rates are high. But,
It wouldn't be comparable to what it would be.
I wonder what the taxes are on the Newman Road properties, too. We could find out.
It's easy to find.
But, and the same with the things that DePiero just built.
Right.
Yeah, I don't know what we get from those, but I thought, basically, the taxes are 1.1% of the, selling price. Isn't that about right? I think that sounds right to me. That's what mine,
That's about what mine is,
yeah. that's what mine are. Well, we also had the economic development meeting, and Jim and and George and I were there. It was very, very good. I don't know if I really want to go into a big summary of it, but it was, if I could boil it all down, there were a number of recommendations that were made in her report. She's got a very interesting 21-page report that maybe you could forward to all members so that they could see it. I don't know that all members have seen it. And some of these things are repetitive and have been recommended in the past. I mean, John was a member of the original Economic Development Task Force, I guess, that was done back.
Oh, that was 7 or 8 years ago. Yeah, Vince Russo had, when he was selectman, he had,
Right.
Marsh Jesperson was on it, Dave Mountain.
So she's making so many recommendations in terms of economic development that without having some kind of a blueprint, it doesn't make a lot of sense. So whether you reconvene a commission or direct the commission to develop a blueprint, you need something to get here's what our economic development goals are, in a little more specificity than she has. But some of them are to develop a specific strategy for Route 1, develop a specific strategy for each one of the villages, Byfield, Upper Green, and Plum Island, and to look at enforcement issues and marketing issues on Route 1 as well. So there's a lot of things that are in the report, but I think it's best if she's gonna make adjustments to it, and I think be ready to discuss it at the March 30th meeting.
You're talking about discussing the Vince Russo report, or what? Which report are you talking about?
The report that the consultant just wrote on
Oh,
economic development.
Okay, the recent one.
That I
Yeah.
think only the three of us got, and I don't think that Peter or Elizabeth got, or you got, so.
That's good to get.
It is, it's a good report. It's very comprehensive, and it's got a lot of information on it, and I think she's, headed in the right direction, I mean, either we're gonna put up or shut up, I mean, one of the things is, should we fund a study to determine whether or not we wanna develop well water to address the issue of salinity in some of our wells, and the issue of Route 1? Fund the study, find out what the issue is. So, there's a lot of put up or shut up stuff in there, which I think is good, because we've been talking about this stuff for a long time.
Yeah, Roberta's preparing a report on the housing meeting, which will be probably as extensive as Courtney's on
Oh, I would
economic
expect so.
development. And I think that would be a good read when it comes in also.
Right. So, anything else?
Yeah, that's all I have.
Anything else, guys?
So just to confirm, there's going to be a joint meeting on the 22nd?
Joint meeting, selectmen, finance, capital planning.
And it's on
Municipal, on the
municipal,
building.
boy, that's
Not
the
us.
20.
It is us on the 22nd?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, whoever.
At 7.
whoever can-
Here?
Yeah, I can't.
Well, they're gonna be, the public hearing is at 7:15, so it's gonna be after that,
Probably around 8.
Okay. At 8.
so whoever can
Yeah,
attend.
about-
Okay.
Okay.
And I will post for this meeting as soon as.
All right, can I have a motion?
Move to adjourn.
All those in favor?
Uh,
Oh, seconded.
Second. Second.
Thanks, guys.